What song are you most excited for the orchestra to play tonight?
Ooh, I think I'm most excited for the Beach Boys.
I'm excited to play Beach Boys.
Irish Party in Third Class.
The Beach Boys medley.
Irish Party in Third Class.
I gotta say Beach Boys. It was pretty good. Got some stuff in there.
All right, what is your favorite Halloween candy?
Reese's probably takes the cake on that one.
Against popular opinion, I'm gonna have to say candy corn.
M&M's, regular M&M's.
I like Midnight Milky Ways.
Anything chocolate.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Milk Duds.
And what is your favorite Halloween movie?
Halloween, of course.
I like old but like animated, so I'm gonna say like Coraline or like stuff like that.
I like Hocus Pocus a lot. It's fun.
Gotta go with Scream.
I really like Coraline.
Probably the Scream franchise.
And what is your all-time favorite Halloween costume?
Ooh, I was a flamingo in 2nd grade, so that's probably my favorite.
My mom made like my hair a donut one time. That was fun.
I like when people go as the Sanderson sisters.
Ooh, I went as the Spice Girls with my sisters when I was younger.
Ghostbusters when that was nice when I was 9. That was pretty good.
I was a cowgirl whenever I was like 7. It was one.
What is your favorite candy?
Probably a Tootsie Pop.
Roll-ups.
Tootsie Rolls.
Smarties.
Hershey's.
Everything but one.
I'd say Jolly Ranchers.
Kit Kat.
Kitty Cat. All of them. Jelly Ranchers.
Twix.
Skittles.
What's your favorite Halloween movie?
The original Halloween. But Hubie Halloween is starting to grow on me.
Maybe The Night Before Christmas.
The Haunted Mansion. Wednesday.
I mean, if you count Deadpool, then, yeah.
What are you guys dressed up as?
Hulk. Spin. Ben.
I'm dressed up as a fisherman because that's one of my favorite hobbies to do.
A witch because I like witches.
Ron Weasley because last year my brother was dressed up as Harry Potter.
Kidpool.
Construction worker.
A clown.
Purely from Fortnite because I like Fortnite.
What are you dressed up as?
I'm Batman.
Today's podcast sponsor is Select Screen Prints. Select Screen Prints has been in partnership with Normal West for over 25 years, providing quality Wildcat apparel at an affordable price. Choose Select Screen Prints for all of your custom t-shirt, sweatshirt, and apparel needs. They now offer digital printing, which allows for fast turnaround and excellent quality at prices that are less expensive than most online apparel companies. Select Screen Prints is the choice in Bloomington Normal area and beyond. Check them out for your next apparel order.
Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get.
All right, welcome to this week's podcast. I don't even know what episode we're on, like maybe 7 or 6 or something like that. Sometimes with the department spotlights, it keeps it difficult for us to figure out what episode we're on, but it doesn't really matter. We're on an important episode, and we have 2 new co-hosts here with us. The first thing we typically do is have the new co-hosts introduce themselves, a little bit about your background, maybe where you went to elementary and junior high school, and then what are some of the things you're involved in at Normal West. So, Gabby, your older sister was on earlier in the year. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, my name is Gabby Striley. I'm a junior. I went to Parkside and Prairieland for elementary school, and here I do orchestra, and I am involved in theater like my sister. I do the fall play, spring musical, and drama club, and I also am on junior class board and in the Promise Council here.
You are busy.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need to get involved a little bit.
Yeah,
Jeez,
just a little
step
bit.
it up.
She's resume building.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's excellent.
Yeah.
Good. And Bailey Mackinson.
Yeah, I'm Bailey Mackinson. I went to Towanda Elementary for elementary school, and then Evans Junior High, and then I was supposed to go to community,
I was
but
gonna
I
say.
transferred here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to go to community, but
I mean,
you can
yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm involved in theater, same as Gabby, in the fall plays and in musical. And then I also do speech team, student council, and senior board.
So you just talked about fall play. How did it go?
It went pretty good. I played the role of Giles Corey, and then Gabby.
I was Mercy Lewis. So it was different than in other years because we had a whole new direction staff. But
That's true.
It was still, I would say it was a successful play.
It was very successful. And, like, going back to, like, the director part, like, it was really hard, like, adjusting to a new director that, like, we both had for, like, 3 years, Mr. Kerr and stuff. And so having that, like, big adjustment and, like, adjusting to, like, a different, like, directing style and stuff, too, that was definitely the hard part and stuff. But it all came together in the end.
Good. You know, I'm sure that probably when you went into it, you're thinking, I'm a senior, you know, it'd be nice to not have to relearn all this stuff, and it'd be nice for the smooth transition. But you're going to find out in life that's not always the case. So it's good for you to have to handle some of that adversity, and I think it will serve you guys both well in college.
For sure.
So.
And then we just both are you in orchestra too, Bailey, or is it just Gabby?
Just Gabby.
So Gabby, you've been in orchestra and in the fall play?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so your last entire school year so far has been crazy. Yeah. So do you have can you breathe a breath of fresh air?
Yes, finally. I mean, there are musical auditions coming up, so that will take up some more time, but it's just like 3 days in the next 2 months that I have that, so.
Got it. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about, or one of the topics. So today we just kind of have a hodgepodge of topics that are, last episode we talked kind of about current events as it relates to the entire country. But this time we're focusing a little bit on West and what's happening around West. So what is happening around West?
So for the orchestras, we just had our concert, which is our big Halloween concert. It was last Thursday, and it was pretty successful. We sounded pretty good, if I say so myself.
You do say so yourself.
Now, a quick question. Can you easily tell, if it's not good?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
But I'm guessing we would not be able to tell that, right?
Yeah. Our pitch was pretty in tune, and our tempos were pretty solid, and that's the biggest tells of if we're doing a good job or not.
You can tell that's coming from somebody that has zero musical talent. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I might actually have less than that.
There's no way.
I was able to do some brief interviews of some of the orchestra members before the concert. So that's going to be coming out on the podcast social media blasts soon. So I'm sure you're looking forward to that. We just asked some general questions about what song are you most looking forward to. Was there a favorite song in the concert for you?
My favorite song was, we played a Beach Boys medley, and we had some beach balls thrown out into the audience during it. So it was pretty loud, but overall, our orchestra really had a lot of fun playing it.
Good.
Very cool. And then, so what else we got going on? Yeah. So we had the concert.
We had the
Went
concert.
Well.
At the concert, they announced the musical. Our musical this year is Hades Town. And
I'm sorry, say again?
Hades Town. So it's about...
is that a person's name? Like Hades?
Like Greek mythology and
stuff.
So
Hades.
It's more modern
Greek.
and stuff.
Got it. Okay.
And it's the main character is Hades.
It's about... in Greek mythology, it's the story of Orpheus in the underworld. So basically, Orpheus, his love interest gets taken to the underworld by Hades, and it's a tragedy, so it has a sad ending, but I can't spoil what happens. So.
Okay. And is there a certain part that you are hoping for?
For me, in a perfect world, I would want Persephone. She's one of the leads. She's Hades' wife. But being a
who's
junior,
in charge of the musical?
Her name is Hillary. She lives in Clinton, and so she commutes here.
Okay. Do you need me to send her an email or anything to let her know that that's...
my mom does the costumes, so if anyone's going to communicate.
Okay, got it. So probably getting an email from me is not going to be very influential.
Yeah. But, I'll take anything.
Right.
So.
Well, good luck on
Thank
that.
you.
And when are tryouts?
Next week. So
November
Wow.
5th.
Yes.
Okay, they don't
Next
play
Tuesday,
around.
Wednesday.
And so usually it's like April when the musical
Yeah.
is. So
they're
lots
starting
of
it
prep.
up early and stuff. Kind of like they did for like Annie and like Shrek and stuff.
I was gonna say, do you feel some pressure after Shrek last year? Because Shrek was awesome, and I feel like hard to top.
We've had some really good ones. Ani Chalian as the Wicked Witch. And we've had a long line and a long history, which is great. You get to be a part of that. Hopefully, assuming you make something.
Yeah, hopefully.
And Bailey, are you going to be trying out for the musical?
Yeah, I am. I am going for one of the Fates. That's like probably like in my perfect world, I'd want to get that role and stuff. But other than that, like I don't have like any other role that like I want to go out for, other than like ensemble or something.
Right. I can't imagine how stressful. It's a kind of a different world. Like if you're trying out for a sports team, let's say, you're just trying to make the team.
Yeah.
And usually, like your height, let's say, dictates whether you're playing center or forward or guard or whatever, although that's not always the case anymore. But when you're wanting to do a specific role, you might make the team, but maybe it's disappointing if you don't make the exact role.
Yeah. I was just going to say, is there ever, getting into the woods a little bit here, but is there any drama about the parts that if you don't get a part and this person got that
if
part?
If you're listening to the audio podcast, you did not catch Gabby's
aggressive nod. Yeah.
Aggressive nod.
Yes.
Especially like in the play and stuff, since it's like so like focused on the acting. Like some people can be like really like mad that they didn't get the role they wanted and like quit the play, and it could be like another really good role, but like they will quit the play or quit the musical altogether because they didn't get the role they wanted, or they'll stay in the show but like they'll just talk bad about the role that they should have gotten and stuff, and like being like, I should have gotten this person shouldn't have, like.
So the real life imitates the movies. Whenever that happens in the movies, that's always the way it goes.
Yes.
So
and like normally like I don't think that was much of a trouble this year during the play. Everyone got along pretty well. There were like a few things that like some drama that happened, but like it was easily like just taken down and stuff. So I mean that was good, but yeah.
Okay.
Good luck to both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. What else we got?
The blood drive is coming up on October 31st.
Okay.
Student council is the one that's like in charge of it and stuff.
Okay. Blood drive on Halloween, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good timing.
Spooky. I personally love working the blood drive. Like it's lots of fun and stuff. And like it's just like helping people and stuff. And this year I'm helping people like walk back to their classrooms so they don't pass out. But it's really cool like watching the nurses and like drawing the blood and stuff, which I think is like really cool and interesting, and like how they do that and how they set it up. And it's also just like you're helping people.
Yeah, it's an important service.
Definitely. Yep.
I won't go through the whole story. We can talk about it after the air. But Dr. Crabtree sat in this chair a few weeks ago when we interviewed the 4 principals. I should have mentioned that and asked him his thoughts on blood drives, because there was a very unique occurrence, an interesting occurrence at our first ever Normal West blood drive. So I'll tell you guys that off the air.
Wow. Listeners aren't going to like that.
Well, they're going to have to email me to find out the story. So
I think like most people are scared of giving blood because I'm going to pass out. And like I went with my friend last year because she was scared to give blood. And she ended up passing out, but like you're out for like 30 seconds and stuff. You just have to like shake them and say their name and they'll wake up.
Hopefully. Okay. Well, good luck on the blood drive as well, because again, it is an important thing. We were also going to talk a little bit about how some of our where we're at in some of our sports.
Yes, cross country, both girls and boys team made it to
Killing it.
sectionals.
Congratulations.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
regionals were at Manuka.
Manuka, yes.
Which was a pretty difficult course from what I understand. So great
Pretty
that they
hilly.
both got out of there.
Yeah.
So good luck to them. Hopefully we'll, I've from what I've been told, that looks like the girls have a pretty legitimate shot. They have a couple elite runners of getting to the state tournament, which I believe is still held at Detweiler in Peoria. So good luck to them.
Yes.
What else we got going on?
Marching band. just-
State champs.
Yeah.
Again.
Killing it as always.
Yep.
Epic.
Yep.
Good times.
Always. Seems like, how
Yeah.
many is this? Is this 3 in a row?
I think so.
I think, are we a dynasty now?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
definitely.
That's what it sounds like.
I mean, we've been a dynasty almost ever since we formed Normal West.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Are we
going
bad
into
for
one,
marching band? We're just too, kind of like how UConn women's just used to win it every
That's
year.
true.
And
I'm guessing not. I'm
No?
guessing
Okay.
we're not quite on that
Okay,
level
all right.
because there's a lot of different categories and classes. So I think we're okay. I think another 3 more, they might be trying to blow it up. So
okay. All right, and then what else do we have?
We've got football. Football is doing well.
Yeah, playoffs. 1 o'clock Saturday against Chicago Simeon, who we played last year also in the same exact situation. And if we win, we likely go to East St. Louis again.
So you're saying that who's playing East St. Louis? I can't remember. I saw it earlier.
Yeah.
Good luck to them. Yeah, East St. Louis, we've talked about on this podcast before, should not really be playing at the high school level. They did lose last weekend, though.
Yep, they did.
To the number 4 team in the nation.
Yep.
By 1 in overtime.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Yep. Volleyball.
Yes.
Okay, they start
Tonight.
they start regionals.
I believe tonight.
Yep. And if they get through their regional, their sectional is here.
Correct.
And that could potentially be against Normal Community.
Correct.
But we don't want to count our chickens first. But
that's a good idea.
It is.
But hopefully that would be a good.
That would be fun.
Good showing. Always looking forward to the FTC cheer from the classy Normal Community fans.
All right. Anything else?
Do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right.
That's a lot happening around here.
Yes. Yep.
So a lot of exciting things, and hopefully those listeners that are around will get to some of those events or maybe participate in the musical and take your roles from you.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Do it.
All right. Well, we'll be back for an interview with TBD. I always love TBD, and they're a really good interview. And then we'll be back with you guys to do what I find to be one of the more interesting games. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I am definitely looking forward to it.
All right. In preparation for the election coming up next Tuesday, we bring in our voting experts. So we have on here 2 very, very special guests. We have Mr. Tony Berardi and Mr. Jason Clockengay. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Of course.
First time in the studio for both of you?
Yes,
first time.
Nice digs. Nice setup.
Thank you.
So if you don't mind, you are voting experts because you each teach what here, if you don't mind telling the audience.
Go ahead, Tone.
For the last 30 years, I've taught U.S. history with a component of government built in that for 22 of those years. I teach intro to logic and sociology, but I've also been the school's in-house voting, registered people to vote, certified by the county to basically anybody who needs help with their registration or registering. And over the years, I've probably registered close to 200 students.
That's awesome.
To get them the right to vote, yeah.
Okay. So if you're a student and you just turned 18, so I'm gonna start talking about, younger people and what they can do to start voting. What can some of our younger students who have just turned 18 or will be 18 before the election, what can they do to register to vote?
Well, as of right now, since we are, within, just a matter of days before the election, they can still register as long as they're 18 on the day of the election. But at this point, they would have to go to either one of the early voting centers that are set up around town, or a sure bet is to go to the McLean County
the government office.
The government building to
Is it the clerk?
The county
Yes,
clerk
clerk.
office, not the circuit clerk. That's the court system.
Correct.
But yeah, Kathy Michael's office in the government building across from the Law and Justice Center, and you can register to vote now there. You just need to make sure you have your state ID, driver's license. I'm not sure if they need some sort of mail anymore that has that address on it.
I think it's just ID.
I think if it's a state ID or a driver's license. And at this point, if you go and do that, you have to vote while you're there. All right. And then you'll get your voter ID in the mail, and that'll tell you where your precinct and all that is. So those are the two options now as of right now.
Okay. So along those lines, so my little backstory: my wife teaches at ISU. She teaches a class for college freshmen, and it's basically just a intro to college and career readiness class that all the freshmen, for the most part, take there. And so this last couple weeks, she's tried to generate some conversation about voting, about the election process with them, and she said, for the first time ever, I mean, compared to 2020, it was a complete dud trying to have her conversation with a lot of the kids about it. And so she had them fill out like an anonymous form and tried to figure out why the conversation was such a dud when she tried to have it. And so she went through it with me actually before this in preparation for asking you. And because I feel like a lot of the 18-year-olds here probably have a similar sentiment, but some of their concerns were, number one, that they're scared and they don't really know what to do. It's almost an overwhelming process going in there, and
it seems very formal, and so they don't want to make a mockery out of it or be embarrassed because they don't know what's going on.
Yep. Their number two reason for either not voting or not wanting was, what's the point? Because in Illinois, generally, it's been a Democrat who ultimately gets the majority.
Dominated by the Chicago area.
Yep. And then number three was they just don't believe that they should vote because they either A, feel uneducated, or they don't know what to believe due to misinformation on social media. So, sorry, that's
several part 30 question. Seconds for each part.
What would you say to some of those young people, though, that have those concerns as far as why they are intimidated to vote or don't want to vote?
Well, part of me wants to say, put on your big boy or big girl pants and step up.
Yeah.
Another part is that's not an unusual thing. People think it's this big, overly daunting task. And when I register people, they're like, really? That's what I got to do? Yeah. You're now, ready to go. And then, it's just a matter of showing up. And when people are, and most people are underinformed voters, they think about, like you just said, they think they're going to show up and it's only the president and the Senate and maybe Congress. Most of the things that are going to be on the election are going to be things that are more locally based, whether they're county or regional based. And in some elections, it's completely local. And those are the ones that are the least voted upon, least known, but they're the ones that have the more direct impact upon how you live your life. I mean, it's
I was just going to say that as well. Yeah.
With all of the online services now, if they just simply go to the county clerk's office and the sample of the ballot and then all the information and then every other link that they could find, they're going to be able to find raw information. Now, if they're relying on TikTok or something like that to get there, that's where the misinformation and disinformation and and the kind of the craziness comes in. But if they just kind of take more of a level-headed view of it, and there's nothing wrong with going in there, and if there are 15 races on the ballot and you only understand 3 of them, only vote in the 3 that you feel like you can. That's called undervoting. Your ballot still counts. It's just that you will not have cast a ballot in those other elections. Right, the ballot's available to be seen, and with a little bit of work and go talk to some of the experts.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say the same thing where what Mr. Berardi was saying with the undervoting part. I think as a first-time voter, people don't realize that you don't have to vote for all of them. And the point I would stress as well, too, is when we talk in our classes about obviously that presidential race gets a lot of notoriety as it should, and Senate races and House races. But if you're talking direct impact to your day-to-day life of, I'd like a bicycle lane added on my road, or I'd like recycling picked up every week, or I would like whatever local issue is of importance to you, when you see the breakdown of those votes and you see, wow, so-and-so won this state representative race or this board seat or something by 200 votes, your vote does count there. It's not where, as you were saying, your wife's students were saying that, in that presidential race. But I think that local race, I think that is something that a lot of my students don't think about. And I think that's kind of part of our job too, is to really, the presidential race gets the fame and the notoriety, but to find those local issues that are, you can have a direct impact and to see an immediate benefit of using your voice. And wow, that election was won by a couple hundred votes, and wow, my vote was really important.
Well, and also the idea that their vote doesn't count because maybe, as you said, we are a blue state, but that's on the state level and in the national level. The local levels, if you look at those red and blue maps, you find that most of the is red. Now, geography doesn't vote, so the majority of the population is in the blue areas of the Metro East and the Chicago area. But the reason that those counties downstate are red is because the county government and the local governments and most of the other policymakers are, in fact, conservative and Republicans. So if that's what turns some students off, they need to realize that if they vote on those local levels, they're going to have their political ideology reflected.
Much more so.
Yeah. Now, on the national level, obviously, when there's millions of people in Chicago and most of them lean blue, they're going to have difficulty getting the senator, the governor, those state races, and then, of course, for the president, where Illinois goes. But most of those races and the people that are responsible for government, that affect them directly, blue or red, if they understand those races, they do have their ideology reflected in their vote.
I want to ask a question. I don't want it could be a long answer, but just talk briefly about the Electoral College, because there's been, I think, just not a ton of news lately, but a lot of, in the last few elections, people talking about maybe the Electoral College has kind of outwarmed its welcome and maybe it's time to make a change to popular vote. Can you just talk briefly about that and maybe just what you talk about in your classes?
So as Mr. Brody was talking, I teach regional world studies, civics, international relations, and AP comparative, and all those classes were digging into that to a point. But civics particularly, one of the key questions we get into, should we keep the Electoral College? Is this something we need to get into? And giving them a little history, the background with it was this big compromise that the fear our founders had was the bigger cities or certain parts of the country would win the election, and a candidate wouldn't have to go campaign everywhere initially when it was started out. Now, the counter, you can say, well, aren't we dealing with that now? As we see a Harris and a Trump rally, how often are they in Pennsylvania or Michigan or Wisconsin, and they're not coming to Illinois? So you see some of those things that are
because
there.
Because they know what they can swing and what
Correct.
They can't swing.
Which states you can move, which counties you can move, which districts you can move, and things like that. So that's kind of part of it, is that the founders were thinking this would be a more fairer response. The other argument, too, with the Electoral College was the average citizen when our country was founded was uneducated. We could push back. We were kind of talking about that earlier. We have the most connected generation, but
we have the most information.
Right, but what are we doing with it? How much do we know? It's going back to your wife's point here about people just, I don't know what is true and what is false. So is the Electoral College that safety net that provides people our country to make that wise decision of who our leaders are going to be?
Yeah, a lot of the sparsely populated states that are, they're called the flyover states, simply, kind of obvious why. So then it kind of begs a question: is if you do get rid of the Electoral College, would you see even less of an involvement by the candidates, because they're like, well, I'll go to California, Texas, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Florida, and, maybe only 10, 12 states if you can convince a huge number there. is that going to?
But let me ask you a question. Like when they're going to Pennsylvania or they're whatever, they going on their visits, but why is that even needed? Because you can do a town meeting online, and pretty much everyone that wants to can see it. You can put up your information everywhere, and it's out there for pretty much everyone.
I think that there's probably much more of an impact upon the voters in general, especially those undecided voters, whatever that actually means.
Right.
When you say, I just had 75,000 people at the Ellipse in Washington showed up for me, as opposed to I had 4.1 million people who clicked and tuned into my broadcast. Even though the numbers are more, I just think the visual, I think that's still old school politicking going on.
And I would add to that, like when we went to Iowa, for example, when both the Republican and Democratic caucuses were there a couple of election cycles ago.
It's very cold in Iowa in January.
Very cold in Iowa in January. But our students were just like, wow, we were in a sports bar and Chris Christie's there and they got a picture with him and Marco Rubio. And then they got to meet Bill Clinton. I mean, this is all in the same day.
We went to the sports bar because Chris Christie was going to be there.
I wasn't going to say anything about it.
I wanted to clarify that.
But the students, like the old school politicking, the handshaking and stuff, like working the rope lines and stuff, have you heard those phrases before? But the kids were talking about, I mean, you're getting a picture with someone that is there. So that's what the candidates want it to seem as real individuals connecting with the average person.
But I will agree with you. What is it going to look like 30 years down the road? Are you going to have, less and less of that as that becomes less and less of a normal way that, our generations we're used to more of that.
That was the best way. I mean, radio.
Right. Yeah.
And actually going out and seeing a candidate and listening to what they were talking about. But back then, you could generally trust what they were talking about as too. I'm just going to throw this out here. One of my biggest frustrations with politics is they know what taglines to use. They know the keywords, the buzzwords, and then when it comes down to the actual practice,
substance,
it doesn't often look like what was promised. And I know there's a lot of different reasons for that. And sometimes maybe their heart's in the right place, but they run into a lot of push and shove from other people.
Well, so much of that is following the money. If you look at people who've been in Congress and Senate for decades, they say that when they started, 30 years ago, they might spend one day a week going to fundraisers and doing that. Now they say they're spending 4 to 5 days a week going to fundraisers, simply because if you don't have that money to be able to do all of the different ways in which it goes, you just can't get your voice out there and somebody's going to come in and take your place.
I don't know how that's good for
It doesn't mean it's
country.
good for it, I agree, but it's a sad reality. And part of it is our system has made it easier with, like the Citizens United Supreme Court case, which said that corporations are individuals and therefore have the right to give any amount of money without any trace to it. That just suddenly
wonder who voted on that.
Well, unfortunately, the Supreme Court voted on it 5-4.
And then who nominates the Supreme Court?
Well, of course.
So it's like a vicious cycle.
Well, and like getting into that as well too, there's been some arguments with Supreme Court of taking the lifetime appointment away and putting them on a rotation cycle. President Biden wrote an op-ed a few weeks ago, or back in the summer, talking about putting them on an 18-year cycle, and every 2 years each president is getting to replace and put someone on there for a cycle so it becomes less partisan and things like that. But all pie in the sky, really good ideas. Are these things going to happen when we can
expanding the court?
Right, expanding the court, and
unfortunately, a lot of these ideas, like you brought up the Electoral College reform, you would need a supermajority in Congress to agree on it, because eventually you're going to have a constitutional amendment to pass this. Good luck getting 2/3 of both houses of Congress and then 3/4 of the existing states to ratify it.
Yeah.
That's, they can barely decide a majority of what to have for lunch, let alone pass anything significance.
Yep. A question I had, was how different is the election process across states? Is there a lot of variability in the election process depending on the state that you're in?
Well, there's certain things mandated by the federal government, in terms of raw structural things. You have to have an election, you have to, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to each state has a lot of latitude and leeway of how they conduct their elections.
Mm-hmm. So like Nebraska, for
Yes.
example, how they have their different districts where all of them are not winner take all. They have, I believe, 1 or 2 districts that are proportioned out.
They have, it's 4 districts, I believe. And then the congressional district, so the U.S. House, whoever wins the House district by 1 million votes, by 1, obviously not Nebraska that much, that is an electoral vote that goes. So sometimes if you look at those red and blue maps, Nebraska might look kind of like, stripes on it, red and blue. Maine is the other state that has that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a compromise that instead of it being 1 vote, you get all of the electoral votes.
Right. Yeah, to me that seems like a good.
Yeah.
And why is it only 2?
Because the states have decided.
How many states do we have? I always forget.
50 at last count, right?
I think it was 50.
There's been arguments. Do you make D.C. a state? They're wanting
Chicago
to talk about
wants to be their own state.
Yep.
Well,
Texas is going to secede.
5 counties in southern Illinois
gonna
keep
say
wanting to secede from, and then what do they do from there, right?
Wow, they can join Kentucky.
Well, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You have any other questions?
We probably have a few more minutes. This might be a longer question as well.
I know your next question.
And this is more politics than the election, but the 2-party system is very frustrating to me. I feel like most people are really in the middle. And when I read and look at stuff, it just seems so on the both ends of the spectrum. And people think that Republicans are evil. All Republicans are evil because they see the extremists, and then the same with Democrats as well. Is there any end to this 2-party system that we have right now that is just, in my opinion, absolutely awful for our nation?
Yeah, we thought that we'd end you with an easier question there.
Well, the 2-party system didn't come into existence until after the Civil War. When you go before that, you have all these different parties. And in some of the parliamentary, like Canada, Great Britain, are oftentimes used where they have all these different parties. The reality is they form coalitions anyway. You have 2 dominant parties, and then in order to shore up your control, you make agreements with these smaller parties. They kind of coalition. They get some token leadership, but it's still 2 parties that are dominating. In America, we kind of cut out the middleman because when you really look at our parties, we have multiple. We call them the caucuses. Whether it's the Liberal Caucus, it's the Freedom Caucus. And then they all fall into that. So we kind of cut out the middleman. All right, in terms of having to have these separate parties, even though we do have other parties, it's just they don't want to caucus with the Democrats, Republicans, so they don't get a chip at the chair at the table. So I'm kind of torn between that. Would it be better if we had all of these different parties, but they're going to make coalitions anyway, and the 2 dominant parties are going to do what they want to do anyway because they throw the bones off the table to those coalitions? Or would it be better for us to have 7 viable parties?
How about 0?
Well,
How about 0, and then we start making some decisions that have a little common sense to them?
Together. So like in AP comparative government, going with that question, we look at 6 different countries that have multiple voting systems. And one option, the way we have in our country, with a winner-take-all system, if you win Illinois by 1 vote, as Mr. Brady was saying, or 1 million, you get all of the votes that go with that. Other countries do this as well, too. It kind of forces those outer parties that you said, they have to form agreements, right, to get there to get a seat at the table. All countries don't do that. Some do it proportional representation, that you could go through and say if you win 30% of the vote in Illinois, you get 30% of the representation in Illinois. And you could go through and now you have multiple views represented. The downside, some say, is do you have now so much fragmentation that there's so many different groups that are there? Others would say it's going to force compromise because no one group can get anything done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've also wondered why we sometimes why we don't vote on policy, as opposed to
for voting. We're just voting on people that are then choosing the policy, and they are to some extent. They're not bound by it, but they're not going to get reelected if they don't follow the whims or not the whims, but the desires of the people who vote for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the money that you were going back to that is funding different.
Yep.
And I just don't have a lot of money to throw at political candidates.
There's
so.
the reality, that old idea, can Mr. Smith go to Washington any longer? You know, the average person goes to Washington to make a difference. Mr. Smith's got to find some backers that are going to give them millions and millions of dollars in order for them to be able to get to Washington. And back to the party politics. How do you do that? You work your way up the party until they finally anoint you, and then, you know, somebody decides to put money into your campaign. Yeah. I guess, and then you can also look at it as, you know, it's the worst system of government in the world until you compare it to all the rest.
Yeah.
There's that old cliched saying is, you know, yes, we have so much more transparency than even a lot of the parliamentary democracies have. Part of the reason that we're so frustrated, I think, is because we know how the sausage is made behind the scenes, at least most of the way. And so we get have more criticism, where a lot of those other countries, they, you know, just smile and wave and everything's great.
You take what you get.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think another compromise you could have with our system as well, too, that kids bring up in class, and I would assume Mr. Berardi's classes as well, too, is if you get into like House and Senate races, where you have your 2-term representative or 2-year representative and a six-year senator, that you can only serve so many terms, like a president can only serve 2 4-year terms. I mean, a few exceptions if you're a vice president and come in something like that. Would that change things up and open the field up so you're not an entrenched politician that has played the game for 40 or 50 decades?
Yeah. Yep. Although you still need good candidates, and I'm nothing against the two main candidates, but boy, I wonder if maybe there could be a few more candidates out there for president of the United States of America.
Yeah. Well, but you also, if someone's running for president, I've always thought you have to almost be something wrong with you. I don't know.
Who would want the job?
Who would want the job?
Well,
yeah.
You know, and we could also then kind of change the paradigm of it a little bit. The voters get what the voters get because the voters vote for who we get.
Right.
That's true.
It gets back to putting on the big boy and big girl pants again. We have to be responsible to know who we have out there, because if we give our votes to somebody who's a dark horse candidate or an outsider, they're going to get into the position, or at least get into the
conversation.
But if people wait until the bitter end, until the parties have kind of, you know, made their decisions, then we get who's there, right? A lot of people kind of forget about that.
So true.
The party procedures.
So true. Yep. All right. Well, I think we could probably talk to you for another hour and 20 minutes, but we're unfortunately short on time. Okay. But thank you very much for coming on. It's great timing.
Really appreciate it.
Yep. And I'm assuming, tell everyone, go vote.
Go vote, right?
Yep.
I mean, you get a day
vote
off.
Early, vote often. I mean, vote when you
vote office.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
All right. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah.
Some interesting news that we found out in the break.
Oh, I made it into Heartland's nursing program.
Yeah, baby.
Wow.
Probably should have a sound effect for that.
No,
so
no.
Absolutely. Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And what kind of nurse do you think you're going to?
Well, I'm hoping to, I'm working on being in the Army and being a nurse in the Army.
Very cool.
My dream would to be go to Germany and work at their hospital.
Wow. Very cool.
Very cool. Wow, what am I doing with my life?
Seriously.
Okay, well, we have a game to play, as we always do, almost always do. I think maybe we skipped it one time, and I'm very intrigued, and can't tell you whether my answers are going to be very accurate or good, but can you explain, Gabby, what we're doing?
Yes, so I came up with a whole bunch of different horror movie scenarios, and I thought we could think about the Normal West staff members and assign a staff member to each scenario based on who we think is most likely to survive.
Okay.
That scenario.
So we're looking for the survivors. We're not looking for the villain.
Right.
So who you'd like to follow if this were to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So.
And are we each going to have to pick a different person, or are we allowed to pick the same person as someone else's someone else has picked.
We can discuss and come to a final consensus.
Okay.
Of like.
What I should have done is had my list of faculty members here so I can
that would
have something to come from.
Can
But
I just
that's
say
okay.
that I think that I would be, let's say there's 128 staff members. I think I'd be 128th on the most people's list for who they'd want to pick for a lot of these.
I disagree.
I'm such a wimp when it comes to scary movies. I cover my eyes. I'm not fit for this. So I'm just going to say that it's a bad pick if I'm chosen at all for this.
Got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Okay.
So our different scenarios are a zombie apocalypse, a mass murderer, the purge, so like Hunger Games-ish, getting possessed, deadly hide and seek, so if you're found, that means you're dead, and we can pick an ultimate MVP who we think would survive all of them.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So do I get to go first because I'm the oldest?
Sure.
Go ahead.
All right, so we're going to go with zombie apocalypse first. I'm going Dave Lair. He's he's just,
that was actually
I can't
going to be
say
mine
the
too.
words, but
Yeah.
he's tough.
Yeah, if you've seen like the movie The Last of Us, where it's almost apocalyptic type situation where it's very dystopian, he'd be perfect for that.
Yeah,
because he can build anything that he needs to build. He's really good at math. He's a jack of all trades.
Plus, he's tough and he's battle.
Yeah, that's true.
Battle worn.
Yes.
Has been in a lot of combat type of situations.
An Army veteran,
right?
Yeah.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I fully agree with that answer. I think that's a great answer.
All right. Well,
who did you have in mind?
My thought was I think that Mrs. Long would be a good one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like she could come up with some biological reasoning for why the zombies were acting the way that they were, and then just like find a way to stop
I would say
them.
maybe reverse it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
That's
that
good.
was my initial thought.
I feel like we need to come up with. We need to do some certificates.
Yeah.
For these people,
Most likely to survive a zombie
yes,
apocalypse. We'll
exactly.
bring it to them
Yep.
for sure.
Perfect.
Yes.
So the next one is mass murderer.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
I didn't have someone in mind for this one.
I have one. I have a good one here. I'm going to pick Mrs. Manarich.
Okay.
Can I explain why?
Yes.
Because she's probably one of the nicest people I've ever met, and I think whoever the Jason, or Michael Myers, I think they would just come up to her and be like, "You're just way too nice. I can't actually kill you." Yeah. So she'd basically, no pun intended, kill them with kindness.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that thought process.
Yeah, that's a different approach than I was thinking. Yeah.
Who do you think, Gabby?
I didn't have someone in mind when I came up with this one. I thought we could discuss. So
I feel like you want someone though that's willing, like it's a mass murder. I get what you're saying, but the mass murderer is murdering a whole bunch of people, so they might not murder Mrs. Manarich, but they might go on to the next person.
We talked about who's going to survive it. Right. You get to make your own pick. That's my pick. You pick your own.
Yeah, that's okay.
we can always come back to it too.
Yeah, I need
Let it
my
marinate.
faculty list because I could think of certain people, I'm sure. I'm going to pass on that one.
All right, we'll come back to it. I'll start right. All right, next is The Purge. Bailey, I think your mom would fully survive The Purge.
You think she would?
I
Why?
think she would because she's so resourceful and she would just, I don't know, she'd just find a way to survive. That's who I thought of immediately when I
Now
wrote
this is
that
kind of
down.
similar to the zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
Like it's pretty dystopian. I've never seen The Purge. What's the
It's
plot?
like-
They're basically just overtaking the government.
Like for 24 hours, you can just like do all the
okay.
crimes, kill anyone you want.
Wow.
Yeah.
Without any punishment.
Yeah, I'm going to probably take someone like Glenn Peterson.
Yeah.
And I feel like military people have a little bit of a leg up. He's been over to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And so I feel like he's probably got some tricks up his sleeve to help him
I was going to say
survive.
Mr. Rakowskis too. He was also in the Army. He was overseas, I believe.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, someone like that is battle tested, and for lack of a better term, and has actually been in our military and gone through some of that stuff is probably more equipped than Joe Burgess from Normal, Illinois, who's
Sorry, I was gonna say Officer Callie because like he has everything that he needs. Like he's already ready.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah.
He can't arrest anyone though.
The only thing I would say about him is I feel like he would fit best under the ultimate MVP because I feel like he could
probably survive
all
anything.
of them.
Yeah.
That's a good call. Possession is the next one.
Oof.
Yes. Who would survive getting possessed?
Okay,
It's a hard one.
Can you
I'm going to
survive
go with ex-faculty member Lisa Tomlin.
Yes,
I just
agree
feel
with
like
that.
she's kind of crazy enough to where on some level she would like just be able to like cast the demons out, and she's just kind of has that personality that's not, she doesn't back down. Yeah. And like I would back and be like, whoa, I can handle zombies, I can handle a mass murderer, I can do the purge thing, but that possession thing is like,
I was going to say, who teaches psychology?
Hamler.
Hamler. I feel like Hamler would be my pick, right? She already kind of knows what's coming. Yeah. She maybe knows how to overcome it from her teachings and whatnot. And so,
and I think has Berardi taught psych before? Maybe he has not.
I think Beer Bomb taught psych before Hamler.
Got it.
Okay, there you go.
I'm not choosing Beer Bomb.
No.
Sorry, John.
No, I think Hamler has seen some stuff, and she'd be able to psych her way out of possession. So I agree with that one. All right. Next is Deadly Hide and Seek. So who's the best hider?
So if you're found...
Brenda the hall monitor.
That's pretty good.
I feel like, because like, she's short, she's tiny basically. She could just like fit into like a bread box and hide there.
That's a great pick.
I'm going with Cullen Matthews though. He's just like a really quiet guy, and like even like, have you ever seen his writing? It's the smallest writing ever of any human being that I've ever met. If you ever get an email from him, the font size is like 8. And so you can, like, I have to put my readers on or just zoom in just to see it. He's just quiet.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's there, then he's not there. I'm going with Cullen Matthews.
My vote was going to be one of the PE teachers because I feel like down there's just so many different little doors that I've never even opened up or been in.
That's a good point.
You know? And they're just kind of
Although I might know this building better than anyone.
Yeah.
From being here the longest, not almost the longest.
I feel like they have special keys to open some of those doors.
Yeah, they do.
And they're just kind of their own little world down there. Yeah. Like if you're in the pool, you're as far away from here as possible. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm going to pick one of the PE teachers.
Not terrible. Oh, those are 3 pretty good ones.
Yeah. All right. And then our last was Ultimate MVP, but we kind of already decided that one. So.
Well, I kind of have, I think Mr. P would be up there too.
I was actually thinking that as
Mr.
well.
Mr. Piepenbrink. He's handy. Yep. He can build stuff. He camps all the time, and he knows how to get his own food.
He's athletic. He's
athletic.
Triathlons.
And he's also a very, very nice person. So again, if a mass murderer were to come and they're like, man, you're just way too nice. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no offense to you, Mr. Burgess. If there's a business department member that I can have in these scenarios, Piepenbrink's by far
100%
the one.
100%.
And I agree. He's really he's very well-rounded.
Yep.
I think that's probably the best way to say it. So actually, and he's a troubleshooter as well.
Yeah.
Like he builds furniture. When you build furniture, you know how to get your way around issues that come up.
Yep.
So I'm going with Mr. P.
I mean, he can probably start a fire, which is a pretty important thing. And if you're in a dystopian world, I can hardly start a fire with a lighter, let alone like with, a couple sticks or rocks or whatever he would use. But that's my pick for the MVP.
Yeah. Then I'm choosing Cowley for the mass murderer because I feel like, they probably had some classes on that in the academy.
Yeah.
How to deal with that.
Yeah. He's probably got some special vests that they can't even.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
All
we
right.
made it through.
Who's your MVP? Was yours Mr.
My
Lay?
MVP was Officer Cowley.
That was mine too.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's maybe we should have like some type of duel between Cowley and Piepenbrink.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Not like a fighting, just like some type of survivor thing, and
School-wide
we'll
survivor
figure out who
episode.
is the overall grand champion or MVP.
Yeah.
Were there any other teachers we wanted to shout out just that would be good at some of these that didn't get picked? Anyone else that you had
I'm
on
going
your
to tell
list
you,
that
I
you were
think
thinking of?
Coach Beatty would be sneaky good at a lot of these situations.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like for zombie
That's
apocalypse.
what Cooper was thinking.
I feel like for a zombie apocalypse, he'd act like a zombie and become one with them, and then turn against them all.
Yeah.
He's extremely athletic. A lot of people don't really realize that, but if you've ever played basketball with him, he's impressive. So I think, and Cooper was nodding, that was my pick. So I think Coach Beatty would be a sneaky person.
I had Miss Sherman on there too. I feel like she's just good at a lot of stuff. She's a great leader. Someone that you want to follow. So I had her as a potential pick on here as well.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully people listen and comment, and we'll probably have to come up with some type of
Mr. Weber
poll.
He could use his 3D printer to create some stuff. His STEM skills.
Got it. And we're gonna leave, and I'm gonna think of like 5 other people that I probably should have said something about. But
Yep. So apologies if you're out there listening and you think you should have been picked
I agree.
to survive exorcism or something. Then I apologize.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for bringing that very unique game to us, and we look forward to maybe hearing back from you guys in terms of how things are going with the spring musical. You'll be on again in the spring, so maybe we'll have you on maybe a couple weeks before the musical. So
yeah. And happy Halloween to everyone. Everybody stay safe. And to end, I did want to ask this because this is a theme every year is number one candy. We'll go around the room. We'll start with you, Bailey. Your number one Halloween candy.
I would have to say like dots for sure.
Wow.
I really like them. Like that's my favorite Halloween candy.
Okay, give me some. I get a lot of flack, especially from my wife. She's listening because I love dots.
Thank you. They're really
and
good.
she thinks it's a joke that I like those, and I get laughed at for that a lot about how much I love dots. It's not my number one, but it's definitely high up on my list.
Yeah. My favorite would be Midnight Milky Ways. That's actually my favorite candy overall.
I like dark chocolate.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're hard to find.
2 unique picks there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I did this last time and said the same thing. Mounds / Almond Joy, because I'm a big coconut fan. So if you either like it or you don't.
Just cut off his mic from now on. That's fine. That's
cut it off.
Such a bad pick.
Cooper? Oh, here we go.
Definitely Twix.
Okay.
Which side? Right or left?
Left.
Left, okay. The left Twix. Very important to distinguish.
For sure. And the obvious pick is Reese's Pumpkin.
Oh,
But,
yes.
Yeah. That's easily the number one. But
No.
okay.
Yes.
I also shout out Tootsie Pops.
Come on.
Those are disgusting.
There's so many better options than Tootsie
Nope, I know.
Pops.
I love Tootsie Pops.
It just makes me want to do the draft again and just throw the candy down. And,
Yeah.
because that was a lot of fun.
For sure.
So we'll have to maybe we do Christmas candy.
Yeah.
So not quite as many choices, but we can still do that.
Or Christmas treat. How about that?
Christmas treat.
Christmas cookies.
Christmas
Okay.
cookie. Make it
Ooh,
more
I like it.
open and
Okay.
Right. That's a good idea.
yeah.
Like it.
All right.
All right.
Happy Halloween.
Signing off.